We have learned the process and tools on how to assess the students. Now we will move forward to the latter of the assessment process. Good day everyone, I am Giselle Georgie Harvelo from BSL English 2 and the first reporter of Chapter 9, Grading and Reporting System. The previous chapters that we have learned were about the various approaches and tools for assessing the student achievement in relation to various learning objectives. In this chapter, we will explore and learn the assigning of grades to students and how it should be done in relation to the intended learning outcomes, and that grading policies of schools must also be taken into consideration in developing a grading system. But first, let us know the intended learning outcomes. For section Intended Learning Outcomes, at the end of this section, you should be able to demonstrate skills in preparing and interpreting grades. You should be able to assess the effectiveness of Parent-Teacher Conference as a venue for reporting learners' performance. Chapter Intended Learning Outcome. At the end of this chapter, you are expected to demonstrate skills in interpreting test results and reporting of grades. We all know that there are many ways on how to assess the student's learning during and after instruction. However, crafting the assessment is not the end of the teacher's work. One of the challenges in grading is that after the assessment, teachers will have to summarize the variety of the collected information from different types of assessment and come up with a standardized numerical grade or descriptive letter rating or brief report. To simply put, this is the time where teachers will give grades to students based on their assessment results. But do not worry, there are provided guiding premises in developing grading and reporting system that teachers must take this into consideration to have a meaningful output and help in the attainment of the student learning objectives. First, the primary goal of grading and reporting is communication. The purpose of our reporting system is to communicate the student's achievement to families, post-secondary institutions, and employers. These systems must, above all, communicate clear information about the skills a student has mastered or the areas where they need more support or practice. Second, grading and reporting are integral parts of the instructional process. The purpose of a grading system is to give feedback to students so they can take charge of their learning and to provide information to all who support these students, especially to the teachers, that they can provide solutions and improvement in teaching based on the students' grades. Third, good reporting is based on good evidence. Fourth, changes in grading and reporting are best accomplished through the development of a comprehensive reporting system. K-12 Grading of Learning Outcomes. The K-12 assessment is learner-centered and considers its learning environment system. Learner-centered is a style of teaching and learning where the instructor focuses on the individual learner and each of his or her needs instead of the curriculum as a whole, and where the teaching shifts from a focus on the teacher to that of the student. Examples: teachers allow student choice and autonomy, use open-ended questioning techniques, encourage student reflection and collaboration, and group projects. 21st century skills such as research, analytical or critical, practical, and creative are part of the indicators included in the K-12 assessment. Both cognitive and non-cognitive skills, which includes values, motivation, attitude, behavior traits, and interpersonal relations, are part of the assessment. Formative assessment, or the assessment for learning, is given importance to ensure learning. Assessment for learning is any use of assessment that is primarily intended to improve rather than measure learning. Formative assessment results need to be used to improve instruction. Some of formative assessment examples are in-class discussions, clicker questions, and weekly quizzes. Assessment as learning happens when learners are encouraged to take part in the process of self-assessment. It occurs when students are their own assessors. Students monitor their own learning, ask questions, and use a range of strategies to decide what they know and can do, and how to use assessment information for new learning. Assessment of learning or summative forms of assessment refers to strategies designed to confirm what students know, demonstrate whether or not they have met curriculum outcomes or the goals, to certify proficiency and make decisions about students' future programs or placements. Examples of assessment of learning are final projects, presentations, and periodical examinations. In K-12 curriculum, assessment will be standards-based to ensure that there is standardization in teaching and learning. In education, the terms standards-based refers to systems of instruction, assessment, grading, and academic reporting that are based on students demonstrating understanding or mastery of the knowledge and skills they are expected to learn as they progress through their education. The Department of Education issued an order stating that assessment will be done in 4 levels and will be weighted accordingly. These levels are the following. First, knowledge. It refers to the essential content of the curriculum, the facts and information that the student acquires. Second, process. It refers to cognitive acts that the student does on facts and information to come up with meanings and understanding. Third, understanding. It refers to lasting big ideas, principles, and generalizations that are fundamental to the discipline, which may be assessed using the facets of understanding. Lastly, products or performances. It refers to real-life application of understanding as shown by the student's performance of authentic tasks. The assigned weight per level of assessment are shown in the following table. We have here the level of assessment and the percentage weight. First, the knowledge, which has the 15%, process of skills, 25%, understanding, 30%, products or performances, 30%, for a total of 100%. At the end of the quarter, the student's performance will be described based on the prescribed level of proficiency, which has equivalent numerical values. Proficiency level is computed from the sum of all the performances of students in various levels of assessment. Each level is described as follows. Beginning. Student at this level struggles with his or her understanding of prerequisite and fundamental knowledge skills that have not been acquired or developed adequately. Developing. The student at this level possesses the minimum knowledge and skills and core understanding but needs help throughout the performance of authentic tasks. Approaching proficiency. The student at this level has developed the fundamental knowledge and skills and core understandings, and with this little guidance from the teacher and with some assistance from peers, can transfer these understandings through authentic performance tasks. Proficient. The student at this level has developed the fundamental knowledge and skills and core understandings and can transfer them independently through authentic performance tasks. Advanced. The student at this level exceeds the core requirements in terms of knowledge, skills, and core understandings and can transfer them automatically and flexibly through authentic performance tasks. Translating this proficiency level into its numerical value is described in the following table. we have the level of proficiency and the equivalent numerical value. For the beginning, 74% and below, developing 75 to 79%, approaching proficiency 80 to 84%, proficient 85 to 89%, and the advanced 90% and above. To have a concise comparison of levels of proficiency, let us look at this table. So the indicators. Acquisition of knowledge of skills and understanding. For the beginning, struggling or have not acquired. For the developing, minimum. For the approaching proficiency, fundamental. For the proficiency, fundamental. And for the advanced, exceeding. For the indicator of the transfer of knowledge and application of knowledge, for the beginning, none. For the developing, needs help. For the approaching proficiency, with little guidance from the teacher or some assistance from peers. For the proficiency students, they are independent. For the advanced students, automatic and flexible. Now, let's move forward to the effects of grading on students. Page 1958 conducted an investigation to how grades affect the students. It is evaluated that students who received grades with standard comments achieved significantly higher scores in the next test or assessment than those who received only a score and grade. Those students who received individualized comments did even better. This led him to conclude that grades can have a beneficial effect on student learning when accompanied by specific or individualized comments from the teacher. Based on the study, its relevance are grades can be used in positive ways to enhance students' achievement and performance. Grades can really affect the student's next step in learning. Therefore, teachers must use their grades wherein students get the opportunity to do better and improve their performance than putting students to be demotivated. Another relevance is that positive effects can be gained with relatively little effort on the part of teachers. Stamps or stickers with standard comments such as these could be easily produced for teachers to use, yet the effect of this simple effort has significant positive effects on students' performance. It is true that when students get good comments or compliments from the teachers, students feel positivity and get energized in the class. As a student, we all feel the same way of how our grades affect us. We may get both the grade and comments from our teachers. Apparently, we feel deeply glad if we get good or higher grades and makes us become motivated to do better in the class to maintain it. On the other hand, some may feel sad, hopeless, and demotivated because of getting low grades. Above all, teachers should take into consideration of thinking how grades affect the students.
Building a grading and reporting system. The basis of good reporting is good evidence. Regardless of the format, grading and reporting should provide high-quality information to interested persons in a form they can understand and use. The basis of that high-quality information is good evidence on student learning. Evaluation experts stress that if you are going to make important decisions about students that have broad implications, such as the decisions involved in grading, then you must have good evidence. Aeration 1994, Lin and Gronland 2000, Stevens 2001. The absence of good evidence, even the most detailed and sophisticated grading and reporting system is useless. It simply cannot serve the basic communication functions for which it is intended. Three qualities that contribute to the goodness of evidence that are gathered on student learning are the validity, reliability, and quantity. Validity. Validity refers to the appropriateness and adequacy of interpretations made from that information. Lin and Gronland 2000. For example, if an assessment is to be used to describe students' reading comprehension, we would like our interpretations to be based on evidence that actually reflects reading comprehension and not other irrelevant factors such as students' gender or background characteristics. So, in this way, validity is always specific to a particular interpretation or use. Next is reliability. So, reliability refers to the consistency of assessment results. If, for example, we attain very similar scores when the same assessment procedures are used with the same students at two different times, we would conclude that our results have a high degree of reliability. Sometimes reliability and validity are confused, especially by those new to the areas of assessment and evaluation. Reliability is necessary for assessment results to be valid, but results can also be reliable and not valid. In other words, certain measures may be highly consistent and yet provide the wrong information or be interpreted inappropriately. Quantity. Validity and reliability relate primarily to the quality of the evidence we gather on student learning and the interpretations we make of that evidence. But the quantity of evidence considered is important as well. So the more sources of evidence on students' learning, the better the information can be reported. Example, any single source of evidence on student learning can be flawed or misinterpreted. It is essential that multiple sources of evidence in grading and reporting students is utilized. The purposes of grading and reporting: to communicate the achievement status of students to parents and others. Grading and reporting provide parents and other interested persons with information about their child's progress in school. To some extent, it also serves to involve parents in educational processes. Second, to provide information students can use for evaluation. Grading and reporting offers students information about the level or adequacy of their academic achievement and performance in school. Third, to select, identify, or group students for certain educational paths or programs. Grades are a primary source of information used to select students for special programs. High grades are typically required for entry into gifted education programs, whereas low grades are often the first indicator of learning problems that result in students' placement in special needs programs. Grades are also used as a criterion for entry into colleges and universities. Fourth, to provide incentives for students to learn. Although some may debate the idea, extensive evidence shows that grades and other reporting methods are important factors in determining the amount of effort that students put forth and how seriously they regard any learning or assessment task. Fifth, to evaluate the effectiveness of instructional programs. Comparisons of grade distributions and other reporting evidence are frequently used to judge the value or effectiveness of new programs and instructional techniques. Last, to provide evidence of students' lack of effort or inappropriate responsibility. Grades and other reporting devices are frequently used to document unsuitable behaviors on the part of certain students, and some teachers threaten students with poor grades in an effort to coerce more acceptable behaviors. Sources of grading and reporting evidence: major exams or compositions. Most teachers use the scores students obtain on major examinations and on major papers or compositions as an important component in determining students' grades. Class quizzes. Class quizzes are shorter assessment devices that teachers use on a regular basis to check on students' learning progress. Reports or projects. Teachers at all levels have students prepare major reports or projects to demonstrate what they have learned. Student portfolios. Portfolios are collections of students' work. although typically used to gather examples of students' writing, exhibits of students' work. Some teachers use exhibits of students' work as a basis for grading. The most common examples include science projects and art or technology exhibits. Laboratory projects. Science and technology teachers frequently build their classes around a series of laboratory experiments or projects that students are expected to complete. Students' notebooks or journals. Some teachers evaluate students' notebooks or journals and include these scores as process grading criteria. Especially in the early elementary grades, many assessments of student learning are based on teachers' classroom observations of students. Oral presentations. Students' oral presentations can take many forms. They include assessments of students' answers to the questions raised in class discussions. They also include evaluations of oral presentations of projects or reports. Homework completion. Many teachers keep track of whether or not students complete their homework assignments and include this as part of the grade. Homework quality. Some teachers thoroughly check homework assignments, assess the quality of students' work, and use those assessments in determining students' grades. Class participation. In some classes, teachers keep formal records of students' participation in class and consider these participation rates when assigning grades. Work habits and neatness. Some teachers give students special credit if their work is exceptionally neat and well organized, and penalize other students for work that appears sloppy or careless. Such assessments typically represent highly subjective judgments by the teacher. Effort. To enhance motivation and recognize students' hard work, many teachers include assessments of effort in determining students' grades. In some cases, teachers consider effort to be an expression of students' attitude toward learning of their work ethic. Because explicit criteria for evaluating effort are rarely identified. However, these assessments also tend to be highly subjective judgments on the part of the teacher. Attendance. Recognizing that class attendance is usually highly related to students' academic achievement and performance, some teachers consider attendance in grading procedures. Other teachers consider attendance important because students learn from each other during class sessions and they want to draw attention to these important interactions. Punctuality of assignments. In an effort to encourage responsible behavior on the part of students, many teachers consider punctuality of assignments in grading. Typically, the scores of students who turn in assignments late are lowered, regardless of the quality of that work or the level of performance it reflects. Class behavior or attitude. Students' behavior and the attitudes they display in class sometimes influence teachers' judgments in determining grades. Some teachers include specific behavior indicators among their grading criteria, such as remain attentive during class sessions or show appropriate respect for the teacher and other class members. More often, however, behavior and attitude assessments tend to be ill defined and inconsistently applied. Progress made. Many teachers consider the improvements that students have made in their performance over a particular period of time when determining grades. Assessing progress generally requires multiple measures that can be used to demonstrate what has been gained or the degree of improvement. It also requires articulation of clear indicators of progress along a descriptive continuum. In all cases, these are indicators of progress grading criteria. So, grading and reporting methods. Letter grades. This is the traditional grading method and the most common and best known of all grading methods, mostly composed of 5-level grading scale. Using the letters A, B, C, D, and E or F with letter grade descriptors, with A indicating excellent, C indicating average, and F indicating failing. Despite their apparent simplicity, the true meaning of letter grades is not always clear. What the teachers would like to communicate with particular letter grade and what parents interpret that grade to mean often are not the same. Waltman and Frisbee 1994. To give more clarity to the meaning of letter grade, most schools include a key or legend on the reporting from in which each letter grade is paired with an explanatory word or phrase. Descriptors must be carefully chosen to avoid additional complications and misunderstanding. So the advantages of letter grade. A brief description of students' achievement and level of performance, including students' potentials, can be provided to parents and other interested persons. Based on parents' experience when they were still studying, it is easier for them to believe and understand what letter grade means. Disadvantages of letter grade. It requires abstraction of a great deal of information into a single symbol. Stevens 2001. Despite educators' best effort, letter grades tend to be interpreted by parents in strictly norm reference terms. The cutoffs between grade categories are always arbitrary and difficult to justify. Lacks the richness of other more detailed reporting methods such as standards-based grading, mastery grading, and narrative. Different interpretation of letter grades. The criterion reference standard-based, based on norm reference, combined norm reference and criterion reference, and based on improvement. So that's all for my topic. Thank you so much for listening.
Hello, good day everyone. I am Glynis Visto and now I will continue the report about the grading and reporting system. Basically, there are 7 systems, but my part is the latter part of the 3rd system, the whole 4th system, and the 5th system. So, the 3rd system talks about the building a grading and reporting system. So the latter part of this system is the grading and reporting methods. Apparently, there are 4 grading and reporting methods: the letter grades, the percentage grades, the standard based grading, and pass or fail grading. So this first method were already been discussed by my group mates. But as a recall, this letter grades, have you observed in some of the grades of the students, they will get a grade of A plus or A, B, C, D, and so on. Basically that is the letter grade. So moving on to the second method, which is the percentage grades. So this grade is accordingly the ultimate multi-category grading method, and it can range from 0 to 100 and generally more popular among high school teachers than elementary teachers. One example of this method is our elementary statistics subjects way back when we were in first year college. And the grading system for that particular subject is major exam 30%, major projects 30%, and class assessment 40%, total of 100%. That is kind of percentage grading. And one example is kanang, for example, maghatag sila og performance task and they will give a criteria. Ang nasa criteria is creativity 50%, proper attire 30%, and timeliness 20%, total of 100%, like that. That is the kind of percentage grading also. So there are advantages and disadvantages in this method. So the percentage grades is convenient, concise, and familiar because it allows for maximum discriminators in evaluation of students' achievement and performance, and also maximizes the variation among students making it easier to choose students for honors or representative for special programs. And also, the disadvantages says that percentage grades is broad and sometimes unclear indication of performance, and also often includes a jumble of factors including effort and improvement. So that's the advantages and disadvantages of percentage grades. So next is the standard based grading. And this was created in an effort to bring greater clarity and specificity to the grading process. Many schools initiated standard-based grading procedures and reporting forms. And Guskey and Bailey 2001 identify the 4 steps in developing standard-based grading. These steps are: first, identify the major learning goals or standards that students will be expected to achieve at each grade level or in each scores of study. And second, establish performance indicators for the learning goals. The third is to determine graduated level of quality for assessing each goal or standard. And lastly, to develop reporting tools that communicate teachers' judgment of students' learning progress and culminating achievement in relation to the learning goals and standard. So, standard-based grading, for example of this, is when the students are graded basing on the rubrics that is given. Usually this is range from 1 to 4, reflecting ladder of mastery. And also there are advantages and disadvantages for standard based grading. The advantages of standard based grading is it focuses on high standards for all students, and it is a pre-established performance level, because when clear learning goals or standards are established, standard-based grading offers meaningful information about students' achievement and performance to students, parents, and to others. And also, if information is detailed, it can be useful for diagnostic and prescriptive purposes. And lastly, it facilitates teaching and learning processes better than any other grading method. And also there is a disadvantages for this standard-based grading method. It may not reflect student learning in many areas and does not include effort or improvement, because it takes a lot of effort. This kind of method takes a lot of effort and often too complicated for parents to understand and may not communicate the appropriateness of student progress. So that's about the standard-based grading. So the fourth method is the pass or fail grading. So pass or fail grading is the simplest alternative grading method available to educators, reduces the number of grade categories to just 2, the pass or fail. And it was originally introduced in college in order for students to give more importance to learning and less to grades they attend. And by lessening the emphasis of grades, many educators believe that students would be encouraged to take more challenging subjects. And this pass or fail grading method was popular in most universities and colleges way back in 1970s. And you will be marked pass if your grade is satisfactory and fail if your grade is unsatisfactory. And basically, it operates on a binary grading system, meaning that no letter grade will be recorded on your college transcript. So, the advantages and disadvantages of pass or fail grading. So, this pass-fail grading is simple and consistent with mastery of learning, because it simplifies the grading process for teachers and students, and use a single minimal cutoff and only 2 grade categories improve the reliability of grade assignments. And pass-fail grading has the potential to make learning environment more relaxed by focusing students' attention on learning rather than on grade. It is according to Goldstein and Tilker 1971. And this pass or fail grading is what students will face in many real-life situations. And now the disadvantages of this method. There is little discrimination in performance and less emphasis on high performance because students gain very little prescriptive information and students spend less time studying if pass or fail grading is used than when a wider range of grading system is utilized. And lastly, students only study to attain minimum passing level and show less effort in striving for excellence. So that was the advantages and disadvantages of the fourth method, which is the pass or fail grading. So now let us move on to the fourth system of grading and reporting system, which is developing effective reporting system. It is the most critical issue to be addressed in selecting the tools included in reporting system is what purpose or purposes it is to serve, why we need to convey this information, and what we need to accomplish. There are three aspects of communication to be considered. First is what information or messages do we want to communicate? So it is very important to consider the informations that you want to communicate, especially to the parents, so that you can be able to prepare ahead of time and the information is relevant as well. So the second aspect is who is the primary audience for that message. So it is also essential to consider the primary audience to make your message meaningful and the audience can relate. Like for example, in a parent teacher conference or meeting. Of course, your messages or information that you're going to say should be related to the child of the parents you are talking to. And the third aspect is how would we like that information or messages to be used. So that was the three so that was the three aspects of communication in developing effective reporting system. So the fifth system is tools for comprehensive reporting system. Reporting system most highly regarded by parents typically include a mix of traditional and more modern reporting tools. And technology really helps the reporting system more efficient. There are tools that might be included in comprehensive reporting system. First is the report cards. It is very familiar to us because report cards is the information of a child's academic progress and it is very familiar to us. And second is notes attached to report cards. For example, as a teacher, you are going to attach a note like Anna is confident, positive, and great role model for his or her classmates. The third is standardized assessment report, phone calls to parents, and this tools is very, very helpful, especially when a certain student did not attend the class without an excuse letter, or even when something happened to the student in the school. You can be able to, as a teacher, you can be able to call the parents of the particular student. And weekly or monthly progress report. Another is school open houses, newsletter to parents, personal letter to parents, evaluated projects or assignment, portfolios or exhibits of students' work, homework assignments, homework hotlines, school web pages, parent-teacher conferences, student-teacher conferences, and student-led conferences. So these tools are all self-explanatory, and this will greatly provide a comprehensive report in order to clarify instructional objectives for students, provide information on personal social development of the students, and also to enhance their motivation. And for parents, this will help to communicate objectives to parents so they can help promote learning and communicate how well objectives being met. So parents can better plan and a lot of functions which will surely help the reporting system successful. So those are the third, fourth, and fifth system of grading and reporting system. So now I will be giving the virtual floor to Miss Karen Mascardo for the last part of the report. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. I am Karen Mascardo, and this is the continuation of our report entitled Grading and Reporting System. In developing and implementing the grading and reporting system, there are premises that must be taken into consideration to have a meaningful output and help in attainment of the student learning objectives. My group mates already discussed the K-12 grading, the effects of grading on students, building a grading and system, developing effective reporting system, and tools for comprehensive reporting system. Guidelines for better practice ensures better practice of grading and reporting systems. There are three statements that serve as guide on how to utilize effectively the grading and reporting system. First guideline. Begin with a clear statement of purpose. Second, provide accurate and understandable description of learning. Third, use grading and reporting to enhance teaching and learning. Do's and don'ts of effective grading. This is what you should do to attain effective grading. Use well thought out professional judgments. Try everything you can to score and grade fairly. Grade according to pre-established learning targets and standards. Clearly inform students and parents of grading procedures at the beginning of the semester. Base grades primarily on student performance. Rely most on current information. Mark, grade, and return assessments to students as soon as possible and with as much feedback as possible. Review borderline cases carefully. When in doubt, assign the higher grade. Convert scores to the same scale before combining. Use a sufficient number of assessments. Be willing to change grades when warranted. The don'ts. Depend entirely on number crunching. Allow personal bias to affect grades. Grade on the curve using the class as the norm group. Keep grading procedures secret. Use effort improvement, altitudes, and motivations for borderline students. Penalize poorly performing students early in the semester. Return assessments weeks later with little or no feedback. Be inflexible with borderline cases. Use zero scores indiscriminately when averaging grades. Include extra credit assignments that are not related to the learning targets. Rely on one of two assessments for a semester grade. Lower grades for cheating, misbehaving, tardiness, or absence. It is important to know the do's and don'ts of effective grading because effective grading provides accurate information to students about their performance and also help them understand what they can improve on. In addition to providing information on their performance, grading should be fair and consistent. This means that all work should be assessed based on defined criteria and that students should be treated equally regardless of whether you look at their work first, last, or after a long day. Planning and implementing Parent-Teacher Conference. The Parent-Teacher Conference is the most common way for teachers to communicate with parents about student progress. It is typically a face-to-face discussion, though phone conference and calls can be used. Parent-teacher conferences may be initiated by either the teacher or the parent based on purpose. There are two types of parent-teacher conferences based on two purposes. First, the group conferences. These are conducted in the beginning of the year to communicate school and class policies, class content, evaluation procedures, expectations, and procedures for getting in touch with teachers. Second, individual conferences. These are conducted to discuss the individual student's achievement, progress, or difficulties. It is important to plan the conference to be prepared. It means having all the information well organized in advance and knowing what to achieve from the conference. It will include a list of areas pertaining to students that need to be discussed with parents. The conference is an ideal time to discuss and point out specific areas of strength and weakness that is not communicated through the report card. Note that conference is not a lecture type of gathering or meeting, it is a conversation. Listening is the primary key to understanding. Listening to parents will help the teacher understand the student better. Macmillan 2007 shared the following checklist in preparing for student-teacher conferences. Checklist for conducting parent-teacher conferences. The first checklist. Plan each conference in advance. Next, conduct the conference in a private, quiet, and comfortable setting. Next, begin with class discussion of positive student performances. Establish an informal and professional tone. Encourage parent participation in the conference. Be frank in reviewing students' strengths and weaknesses. Review language skills. Review learning targets with examples of student performances that show progress. Avoid discussing other students and teachers. Avoid bluffing. Identify 2 or 3 areas to work on in a plan of action. Indeed, parent-teacher conferences entail hard work to be successful. It is necessary that preparations of the logistics, as well as teachers for their face-to-face encounter with parents, be carried out so to ensure that the objectives of the parent-teacher conference is met. Here is a table that summarizes some recommendations for effective parent-teacher conference. Before the conference, encourage parents to review student work at home, note concerns or questions, and bring those to the conference. Schedule times that are convenient for both working and non-working parents. Notify parents well ahead of scheduled conference times. Provide staff development for new teachers and the purpose for conferences, preparation, and scheduling. Consider alternative locations such as church or community centers for parents' convenience. Print conference schedules and materials in multiple languages if necessary. During the conference, provide child care refreshments and transportations if necessary. Show multiple samples of student work and discuss specific suggestions for improvement. Actively listen and avoid the use of educational jargon. Communicate expectations and describe how parents can help. Develop a system for ongoing communication with each parent that recognizes parents as partners. Provide resources materials that parents might use at home to strengthen student skills. After the conference, provide parents with a telephone number and schedule for specific times so they may call you with concerns. Follow up on any questions or concerns raised during the conference. Plan a time to meet again if necessary. Encourage parents to discuss the conference with their child. Ask parents for written evaluation of the conference and encourage them to make suggestions. Debrief with colleagues to look for ways to improve future conference. That would be all for my report. Thank you so much for listening. God bless and stay safe.